welcome to the DEFCON Warning System Digest. I am Thomas Lonelywolf, the director of the DEFCON Warning System. Oh, I guess we're using a different camera setup. Usually you can see my hands moving and everything like that. Not anymore. I'm kind of watching myself in the monitor. We got like a green screen in the background because nobody wants to see my plugs and stuff like that. So hopefully it's a less distracting background for you. So for those of you who are new to the digest, this supplements the updates that go out at the beginning of the month. The updates are kind of like bite-sized chunks of what's going on. It tells you what's happening, and the digest kind of gets into the whys of things are happening in our analysis of what is going on. To give an example, Russia came out with this 100 megaton warhead. And we tell you that in the update, and in the digest we explain why that means absolutely nothing. And for those of you who didn't get that reference, no, Russia didn't just come out with this new 100 megaton warhead. This has actually been around for quite some time. It's called the Tsar Bomba. You can look this up on Wikipedia or any other web search. And why this actually means nothing is that, let me go back for just a second. I lost my train of thought. The Tsar Bomba does actually go up to 100 megatons. I think it dials up to 200 megatons. And the reason it means nothing is because even their own military laughed at it. They just said, what are we going to do with something like this? The bomb is too big to be deliverable. It won't fit on a missile. It's too heavy for bombers. And the military just didn't even want it. They didn't even want it built. They kind of built it just to say, look what we can do. Even though it just sits in a museum now, and yeah, if you're new to this, you'll see I kind of itch a lot. I don't know why. I don't have a skin condition or anything like that. But and when you're in front of a camera, I know you can't scratch this when you have to. But so, like I said, with the Tsar Bomba, it's more kind of like it's something they could do, but it means absolutely nothing. And when in terms of destructive power, it's kind of an inefficient weapon. 100 megatons. What would you do with something like that? Explosive power. It's better to use smaller bombs and bigger bombs because for an area of effect, its effect is exponential in terms of the amount of power you need in order to affect the same proportional amount of area. So it's actually better to throw two 500 kiloton weapons at a city. You'll cover more area than if you were to throw a 1 megaton bomb at a city. And I think I have some graphics up there for you. This is the area of effect for a 500 megaton weapon, and this is the area of effect for a 1 megaton weapon. I said that right, didn't I? 500 kiloton. This is the area of effect for a 500 kiloton weapon, and this is an area of effect for a 1 megaton weapon. I hope I fixed that in editing. So you can see it's not proportional. It's the 1 megaton is not twice the area of effect than a 500 kiloton weapon. It's actually much smaller. So that's why they're going to throw, two 500 megatons on a city than they would a 1 megaton. The bigger bombs are used to dig things out. When nuclear weapons were planned way back in the 60s, it was always planned around 20 megaton weapons, and that's kind of really overkill for cities. Usually your 20 megaton weapons are only for your NATO headquarter targets, the ones that they really need to dig out. Your missile fields, those are your ground bursts and things like that. But your really hardened targets like your NATO and stuff the Kremlin has and things like that, that's where you throw the big ones at. And the NATO headquarters has probably got a couple of them because they're gonna have to throw one of them out there, and that's not going to be good enough, so they're going to throw another one out there once the dust clears. That's one of the reasons. I'm going to go off on a tangent. That's one of the reasons that the missile fields are packed so tightly close together, because once they destroy one, it's going to throw out a lot of dust and dirt and debris, and in theory, that's going to tear apart any other missile that's coming near it. So that's why the missile fields are packed so closely together. It's not for efficiency. It's so the debris from one can tear apart the missile that's heading for another. So it's a defensive reason. Okay, I've tangented this enough. Some very important business. We're in the Christmas season. I know everybody is feeling, at least I hope everybody's feeling generous, and so I hope you will consider the DEFCON Warning System's official charity, the Salvation Army. They do a great amount. The charity that we give to, among some other charities, the charities that I personally give to, they do Toys for Tots and things like that. They give to a bunch of different disadvantaged groups. So they're really good. And a very large portion of the money goes to the actual work. There's a lot of charities out there where only 60% go to the actual work, 20% only go to the actual work. Salvation Army is really, really high up there. Feeding America is another one, I think like 95%. I hope you'll please consider giving to them. Okay, that's enough of my pitch. Here's also, don't forget to like us and subscribe to us. So first up on the list of the lovely things we need to talk about during this Christmas season, because everybody wants to talk about nuclear war during the holidays. China has extended the range of its medium-range hypersonic missiles. I guess there's good and kind of overkill with that. Medium-range missiles, you don't really get a whole lot of time to react to, so it's kind of pointless to make them go faster. But now you got these medium-range missiles that are so fast you don't have any time to react to. So that's definitely an escalation there. Of course, we know that these things are pointed at Hawaii and the defensive range around South China Sea. China is not really seen as extending itself militarily, although Australia really needs to watch out for them. But they're not planning to invade the United States or anything like that. But they are, again, for those of you who've watched these digests before, they are establishing an area of denial. They intend to inflict massive casualties on whoever is attacking them. And if the United States decides to defend Taiwan or Japan from China or anything like that, how many casualties will the United States take before the United States just starts to throw in the towel? And that's what China is kind of hoping for. And with their medium-range hypersonic missiles, they can inflict a lot of casualties and hopefully reduce the amount of retaliation that they will have to endure by destroying bases and missile sites and things like that before they have a chance to fire back. I don't know how well that will work, because the United States has a lot of standoff missiles that they can fire off with. So, but again, this is just another step in escalation. These hypersonic missiles, with missiles, the whole doctrine behind MAD was that when one country fires off their missiles, mutual assured destruction. MAD stands for mutual assured destruction. For those of you who were born, in the 2000s. Russia would fire off its missiles, the United States would fire off their missiles, and the other country would have time to react. And then therefore that's what gave countries the pause to not fire off their missiles, because they know they would be retaliated against. Now with these hypersonic missiles, which Russia is developing and China is developing and the United States is developing, well, now you don't have the reaction time, so they're good first strike missiles. And so if your enemy doesn't have a chance to react, then you can feel a lot more free to fire off a bunch of missiles and hopefully cripple the country. And if you guys have not looked up the movie First Strike, I highly suggest you look that up on YouTube. You can find it on YouTube. It's a government-made movie, so there's no copyright issues there. It postulates a Pearl Harbor type attack on the United States. Now, the plausibility of this during the time that movie was made, it just wasn't going to happen. Russia was not going to get this kind of decapitating strike on the United States and force the United States to surrender before it could fire off its missiles. That just was not going to happen. It's not even going to happen today, right now, but we're kind of moving in that direction. But let me go back to First Strike. It's like in 5 or 6 different parts. The first part is only about like 30 minutes long or something like that. I think it's actually even less. In fact, let me look it up really fast because I have it on my computer. Oh boy, I was wrong. It's only like 10 minutes long. So the whole thing is just like about 50 minutes. But the parts 2 through the end, they're just it's just talking heads. The first part is what you really want to see, and that's the actual attack on the United States. But with these hypersonic missiles, it kind of removes the reaction time. So like I say, it gives the attacking country a chance to get away unscathed. So therefore, they don't need to worry about retaliation. And, so that's kind of, and also with these hypersonic missiles, it also makes it really harder to, shoot them down with these missile defense programs that are starting to come online. So these are bad things. So see China starting to make these, especially since China has become more aggressive in its own area, South China Sea, Taiwan. It just lowers the threshold as to the possibility of war. So next on China's little fun things to do in the month of November, December, China's Coast Guard is authorized to use weapons on foreign vessels in China-claimed territory. Now, we kind of already knew this was going to happen, and this refers to the South China Sea area, with the United States making these freedom of navigation voyages through the South China Sea. Now, for those of you who have not been following South China Sea, of course, everybody knows that area that's being claimed by China. What most people don't know is that the World Court ruled against China, and this went to the World Court, and China, was claiming these islands. The World Court said, no, this area does not belong to China. So legally, as far as the world goes, the South China Sea does not belong to China. Now, China just said, we don't care what the World Court says. We're going to claim these as our own. And so they've been building up these military bases on there. They've been ramming fishing vessels from other countries who have territorial stakes in the area, and they have more claim to the area than China does, but China doesn't care. So they've been pushing these other countries out. Vietnam is not happy. Japan is not happy. South Korea is not happy. The Philippines, that's another country that's affected by this, but nobody's willing to sink one of these Chinese military boats, because that's going to spark a war. I mean, what's going to happen? What do you think China is going to do? But if they don't defend their claims, then China just wins by default. So the United States comes in there because the United States, for some reason, thinks they're the cop of the world, and they're going to do these freedom navigation things. And so basically, this is just China upping the stakes a little bit, saying they now have the right to fire on vessels in the South China Sea. Now, will China fire on a U.S. vessel? I don't really think so, but who knows? Especially if something happens in Taiwan, things can change. But I don't see China, as long as the United States continues to just do freedom of navigation acts, and that's all, just sail through. I don't see China firing on a U.S. vessel. Another country's vessel? Philippines? Vietnam? Oh, maybe. I mean, they're ramming them, so why won't they fire on them? But the U.S., not so much. But start to escalate as China starts to get more aggressive. This is an area to watch. The South China Sea and Taiwan, of course, but South China Sea is definitely an area to watch. That is going to be a problem in the future. I don't know when, 5 years from now, especially if something happens in Taiwan. If China invades Taiwan and the United States goes in there and doesn't follow through and beat China back, that is going to encourage China to start acting even more aggressively in the South China Sea. So that area is just going to be a big problem area in the not too distant future. Maybe not in 2021. Of course, who knows, because with things changing, a new president who may not be as aggressive toward China, or maybe he will. I don't know. We'll see. Our analysis will be coming out in January on that. So China is kind of waiting to see. Like I said before, everybody's kind of waiting to see what the new president is going to do about that. So, but like I said, ultimately it doesn't matter how strong the United States is going to be as far as China goes in the South China Sea, because China has claimed that, and they're going to get more aggressive. Just watch. They're going to get more and more aggressive over that. So that is going to be a problem no matter who the U.S. president is going to be. There's no negotiating our way out of that. China has claimed it, and unless everybody just suddenly decides to unite and do something about that, China's just going to claim it, and they're going to defend it. But speaking of Taiwan, U.S. Marines officially training in Taiwan for the first time since 1979. China has made a big deal about if the United States sends over more troops to Taiwan, they're going to they're going to react. Now, they didn't. So far, China has done nothing about this, but the fact is that China is not too happy about that. Now, again, what the United States is actually going to do with Taiwan if China invades, well, we do have a defense pact with them, but again, how many lives is the United States willing to Taiwan? Vietnam and the Korean War, in both cases, the United States was actually winning those wars until the politicians of the United States pulled the United States back and slapped on these absolutely ridiculous rules of war that made it impossible for the United States to win. So the United States can win a war in that area. Remember, in Korea, China just poured a bunch of troops into North Korea, and the best they were able to get was impossible rules of war. And Vietnam was a little bit different because there was a whole lot of political feather carb going on in the United States. But again, the United States was winning that war until they were pulled back. And you can ask any Vietnam veteran; they're still around. They'll tell you what it was like trying to fight under these just ridiculous rules of war that actually made it a war crime to accidentally shoot a civilian. The problem with war is you kill people and break things, and unfortunately in war there's collateral damage, and that's kind of one of the reasons why you don't go to war, because you don't want your country broken and you don't want your people killed. And especially now with the Gulf Wars, that has made war so clean and surgical, I don't know if the American public is up to a real war, a real bloody, messy war. But if we go into Taiwan, we're not going to be able to do a surgical war. It's going to be bloody. It's going to be messy because China doesn't mind sacrificing, a couple 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 of its own people. They got a billion slaves. They can just keep pulling them from the fields. So anyway, like I said, going back, China is not happy that the U.S. Marines are officially training in Taiwan, but there they are, and they didn't do anything. Again, it may be coming down to who the next president is going to be. China is also developing long-range bomber, which could strike the United States. Isn't that lovely? Again, China has no intention of attacking the United States. But in a war, they could make life miserable. Now, will China attack the United States over Taiwan? No, it's going to stay limited to Taiwan because China knows Americans get really pissed off if their own country is attacked. We all saw this in 9/11. Even the terrorists were blown away by the U.S. reaction. They really thought the United States was just going to cower. But one thing that unites the United States is getting attacked. Now, the United States is politically in a really bad position right now. There's some talk of secession, and it's really divided. There's talk about a stolen election. Whether you believe that or not, it's irrelevant to me. I'm just telling you what's out in the political air. Who knows how the United States would come together if it is attacked? There are people out there who will say the United States probably deserved to be attacked. There were people out there who said the United States deserved to be attacked when 9/11 happened. So if Taiwan blows up or Korea blows up and the United States gets attacked, there may be some people who say the United States deserved it. But politically, I don't know. The United States is kind of in a difficult, divided position right now. They are a country that would react militarily, but not as strong as if they were more united as they were, 40, 50 years ago. But the fact that China can strike the United States, now it's a toss-up of whether the United States would react or if the United States would knuckle under and just not want to take the casualties, especially for Taiwan or Korea or whatever. They'll honor their commitments, but how long they'll honor that commitment, not as long as they would in the past. Moving on to the Middle East, Saudi Arabia says it retains the right to arm itself with nuclear weapons if regional rival Iran cannot be stopped from making one. The United Nations has just gone on and on about how Iran has been complying with the nuclear agreement. No, they have not. The United Nations has been deceived. The United Nations sees what it wants to see, and Iran has, of course, been working on its nuclear program. Iran does not have a anytime, anywhere inspection policy. The United Nations has to give it notice, and Iran has plenty of time to clean up the area. And of course, there are a lot of research facilities that are undeclared. We've known that before. I believe the big research facility that we know about, whose name escapes me at the moment, and I'm not going to take the time to look it up because nobody cares. But the fact is, we didn't know about that until it was revealed by an Iranian underground opposition party. And this Iranian underground opposition party also says that Iran already has a nuclear weapon. And of course, in the Middle East, we've always been worried about other countries wanting nuclear weapons. Israel, of course, everybody, although it's undeclared, everybody kind of knows, it's kind of like an open secret that Israel has nuclear weapons, but Israel is not out to conquer other countries. Iran is. Right now, other countries aren't out to conquer other countries in the Middle East. Well, we've still got the Pakistan-India problem going on, but Saudi Arabia is not looking to expand its borders. Jordan isn't looking to invade Egypt. Iran, on the other hand, Syria's got its own problems, but Iran, they are a problem child. So if Iran gets nuclear weapons, this is something that Saudi Arabia is always worried about. So they have not liked each other very much. Iraq, of course, is not happy about Iran, but Iraq now has a lot of Iranian influence. But Saudi Arabia is the big one because they have the money and the capability to get nuclear weapons. In fact, they even said that they don't need to develop nuclear weapons. They can just buy it from Pakistan or North Korea. So this is a major problem. Iran, will they eventually have a declared nuclear weapons program? I don't know. They may decide to take the Israel route, but remember that Iran is the aggressor nation, so they may decide to come out and do what North Korea said. Develop it in secret until one day, boom, there they are. Now what are you going to do about it? Because the world certainly isn't doing a whole lot about North Korea, and Europe and the world certainly isn't doing a whole lot about Iran. Europe's passivity, they look the other way for too long until it's too late. We did this in World War II with Hitler, and now we're doing it again with Iran, and that genie just may be out of the bottle already. The United States announced its intention to create a numbered fleet in the Indian Ocean, U.S. First Fleet. This means that the United States is injecting itself more over there. This, of course, is in part because they're trying to snuggle up to India. Also, they want a fleet closer to Russia. And of course, Russia, not happy about this. They do not like the United States poking its nose into what they consider to be their area, and they've got a legitimate argument. My voice is starting to go out. The United States formally withdraws from the Open Skies Treaty with Russia. This is not new news because they announced their intention months ago, but the date finally came where they can officially do it. They had to make an announcement. They had to announce their intentions, and then there was this period of time, the cooling off period, but finally they have withdrawn now. What does this mean? This means that the United States can't, the Open Skies Treaty was where both Russia and the United States were allowed to fly over their territories and keep an eye on what they were doing. Do they have any extra missile silos? Do they have any extra bases or things like this? The problem was the United States claimed that Russia was violating the Open Skies Treaty by hiding things. And of course, Russia was. They have a lot of their nuclear weapons on mobile road launchers. They're hidden. They're not declared. And so the United States was kind of pissed off with this. And also they said that Russia was using the Open Skies Treaty to spy on the United States. And of course they were. And of course the United States was doing the same thing to Russia. So the United States just can't walk in there with clean hands. But this is what caused the United States, this is their claim for withdrawing from the Open Skies Treaty. So now Russia can't overfly the United States, and the United States can't overfly Russia, which means that the United States can't keep an eye on Russia. And of course, Russia can't keep an eye on the United States. But of course, that's what spy satellites are for. So does this mean a whole lot? But it certainly was. It certainly had a symbolic gesture. So moving on to Iran, since we were talking about Iran. Oh, maybe let's do Russia first. Let's do Russia. Russia tests a missile that can destroy U.S. satellites. Well, U.S. satellites have always been vulnerable. We always said we will not weaponize space. Well, ha ha ha. We all knew that Russia was doing it. China certainly was. In fact, they've made no secret about it. And the United States has been, who knows what the United States has been doing, but they've been a lot more quiet about it. But Russia, no. But the United States really is they're kind of secret about what they've been doing. So publicly, they're kind of behind the 8 ball because we don't know what they've been doing. But if they have not been working on satellite killer technology, they are really, really screwed. One good thing that has happened is that the U.S. military has made a contract with Elon Musk and his Starlink satellite system. For those who don't know, Starlink satellite internet with HughesNet and Viasat. Those are the 2 big American companies. They have a network of satellites up there. You just beam out your internet signal space, and it comes back down. There's a big, long latency problem with that, but they have a number of geostationary satellites up there. Elon Musk's Starlink system is a lot closer to Earth. They're low Earth orbit satellites, but more to the point, there are a lot of them, just a whole lot, to the point where astronomers are kind of pissed off at Musk because it obscures the night sky. But the thing is, with the U.S. military contracting with them, this means that there are an innumerable amount of satellites up there, and it makes it really, really hard for an enemy to destroy that many satellites. So when it comes to GPS, which U.S. missiles rely on and U.S. military rely on, now you just can't shoot down a couple of satellites and knock out the U.S. GPS system. Now you've got this whole network that it's just impossible to destroy that many. The amount of redundancy built into the system is phenomenal. And when Musk's system is fully launched, I think he's only got 2% of the amount of satellites that he wants up there, and there are a lot of satellites up there already. When it's fully developed, it's going to be a nightmare for astronomers, but it's going to be really, 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 really good to withstand an enemy attack, at least as far as satellite killers go. So that's what's going on. So Russia tests missile that can destroy U.S. satellites. Great. China's been doing that. Hopefully the United States has been doing that. But it's, at least with this new Starlink system, at least now you've got a system that can withstand this kind of attack. Returning to Iran, Iran says that it will return to the nuclear deal if the United States lifts sanctions. This is something that they've been demanding for months, and it does look like something that the incoming U.S. administration will do. So good luck. I'm not advocating a position. If the United States wants to do this, I'm just saying what's going to happen. What's going to happen is that Iran is going to get a lot more money because the sanctions are going to be lifted, and Iran is going to continue to work on the nuclear program. You can send all the inspectors you want. Iran is never going to agree to anytime, anywhere, and they've been working on their nuclear program so far, and they're just going to continue lifting the sanctions. All they're going to do is just give them more funding, so they can buy stuff from Pakistan, and they can buy stuff from North Korea, and they can pay more scientists, and they can invest more in their spy and espionage systems, and that's what's going to happen. If the United States wants to do that and lift the sanctions, and the UN wants to lift sanctions, and Europe wants to lift sanctions, you go ahead and do that. I do not advocate any kind of policy. I'm just saying what's going to happen. You are not going to stop Iran's program, nuclear weapons program, by lifting sanctions. You are just going to encourage it. That is what's going to happen, like it or not. And finally, uranium parliament. See, I'm trying to make these digests faster because nobody wants to sit and listen to me, go on a college discourse. And that's kind of what I forgot to say at the beginning. These DEFCON digests, they're not intended to be college discourses about analysis. You can look all this stuff up if you're really, really interested. We're just trying to give you, a nice news program about what's going on. So Iran Parliament passes a bill that will suspend UN inspections of its nuclear facilities and require the government to boost its uranium enrichment if Europe does not provide sanctions relief. So here we're going back to them demanding sanctions relief. And of course, they have promised that if they don't get sanctions relief, they're going to escalate their nuclear facilities. Now, Iran has said, we don't have a nuclear weapons program, and in fact is against the Quran to develop nuclear weapons. Well, remember what I said. Remember what the Quran said. It's okay to lie to your enemies. If Iran was not interested in nuclear weapons, then why are they boosting uranium enrichment, and why are they accelerating this program that supposedly doesn't exist? Iran is lying. Iran is going to develop their nuclear weapons. And if you lift the sanctions, that's just going to accelerate faster because they're going to have more funding for it. I don't care what you think. You do whatever policy you want. We don't care. We're non-political here at the DEFCON Warning System. We're just telling you what's going to happen. But that is the update. That was the update for December. That is our analysis for it. I hope you all have a good Christmas. Don't forget, we're going to do another digest at the end of the month. It is going to be our annual Ask Me Anything. So think of your questions. You can ask me anything, and I will do my best to answer it.